Mr. Frederick, I'm not sure I understood your answer to Justice Barrett. Is it a permissible factor for a judge to include in the determination disapproval of the mandatory minimum?
A judge would be committing an abuse of discretion to disagree with a policy judgment made by Congress. However, a judge would also be within his or her discretion to say that for this particular inmate, given the circumstances here, this minimum would be subject to compassionate release.
I don't quite see the difference between those two things.
Well, the difference, Your Honor, is that we're looking at the totality of the circumstances, the person's age, how much time the person served, whether the person has health issues, and the range of rehabilitation and other family circumstances. And the court could very well say, you know, this mandatory minimum is too harsh, and because of all these other factors.
So the answer is that it can be considered, disapproval of mandatory minimums across the board can be considered in a particular case if there is something else.
I think that the part of where I'm going to challenge your question's premise a little bit, Justice Alito, if I might, is that where you say in all circumstances, because the judge is always looking at the one case before.
Okay, so there's a case where the mandatory minimum is 10 years, and the judge says, I know that's the mandatory minimum for the run of cases, but in this particular case, I think for a variety of reasons having to do that's too long. That's okay.
Well, if your question is about original sentencing, I think that's different.
No, on this
modification.
Motion, on this modification.
If under your hypothetical, the person is 75 years old, has a life-threatening disease, and the court says, you know, this mandatory minimum is pretty harsh, and the BOP is likely to be coming back here to say we don't have the medical facilities to deal with that person, it is not an abuse of discretion for the court to say, in this particular circumstance, that mandatory minimum is too harsh.
Thank you, counsel.